They tell you that war is hell, but they're wrong. Hell has rules. Hell has fire and brimstone and a clear hierarchy of suffering. What we faced in Sector 4 wasn't hell. It was an error code. It was the universe forgetting how to hold itself together, and we were the only ones stupid enough or brave enough to stand in the gap where reality used to be. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to watch your best friend dissolve into static while he's still screaming your name, or if you've ever had to give an order that defies the laws of physics just to keep your squad alive for one more minute, then listen closely. This isn't a story about winning a war. It's a story about holding the line when the line itself no longer exists. My name is Captain Elias Thorne, and this is the log they said couldn't exist. The rain didn't fall down. It fell sideways, then upward, and simply ceased to be wet, turning into a fine, gray mist that tasted like copper and old pennies. I wiped my visor, but the smear remained, not because of dirt, but because the light refraction index of the air around us had shifted again. My heads-up display flickered, the green tactical overlay stuttering as it tried to map a terrain that refused to stay mapped. "Cap, my compass is spinning," Miller said. His voice was tight-clipped. Miller was our point man, a kid from Ohio who treated his rifle like a religious artifact and his anxiety like a personal failing. He was 24, but in the dim, fractured light of the ruins, he looked 12. "It's not just magnetic north. It's pointing at me." "Keep it steady, Miller," I said, keeping my own voice level. "Panic is contagious. Calm is a vaccine." I checked my own wrist comp. The needle was indeed dancing, tracing erratic loops before settling on a direction that made no geographical sense. Ignore the needle. Trust your eyes. Trust the team. We move by landmarks, not magnets. "Landmarks are moving, boss," Jinx chimed in. She was crouched behind a slab of concrete that had once been part of a bank vault, now twisted into a shape resembling a melted candle. Jinx was our tech specialist and demolitions expert, a woman who spoke in sarcasm and wired explosives with the delicacy of a surgeon. She tapped the side of her helmet, her fingers leaving streaks of grease on the composite material. "I'm picking up spatial anomalies 3 clicks ahead. The geometry is non-Euclidean. If we walk in a straight line, we might end up back here yesterday." "Noted," I said. "Then we don't walk in a straight line. We walk in a zigzag. Standard evasion pattern delta. Stay close. Keep visual contact. If you lose sight of the person in front of you, you freeze and shout. No heroics. No wandering off into the fog." There were 4 of us left. Me, Miller, Jinx, and Document Doc was our medic, a giant of a man named Harrison who carried a medical kit that weighed more than Miller. He was the anchor of the squad, the one who reminded us that we were still flesh and blood, even when the world around us suggested we were merely data points in a corrupted file. He was checking his supplies now, counting bandages with a rhythmic precision that seemed to ground him. "Captain," Doc said, not looking up from his kit, "the atmospheric toxicity is rising. The masks are filtering at 80% efficiency. We have 2 hours before the filters saturate. After that, we're breathing pure entropy." "2 hours is enough," I said. "We just need to reach the extraction point alpha. Command says the rift stabilizer is there. If we can activate it, we seal the breach. If we don't, we become part of the background noise." Jinx finished, her tone dark. She stood up, slinging her rifle over her shoulder. The weapon was modified, stripped of unnecessary weight, fitted with sensors that could detect shifts in local reality. "Let's move. I'd rather die fighting than fade away." We moved out. The landscape of Sector 4 was a nightmare of architectural impossibility. Buildings leaned against each other at angles that should have caused them to collapse, yet they stood firm, suspended by forces we couldn't see. Streets looped back on themselves. A car hung in midair, rusted and broken, its wheels slowly rotating as if driven by an invisible hand. The sky above was a bruised purple, streaked with lines of white static that looked like cracks in a windshield. As we navigated the rubble, I kept my eyes scanning the perimeter. The enemy wasn't human. Not anymore. The initial incursion had been by conventional forces, but the reality collapse had changed them. They were called the Echoes. Shadows given form, silhouettes that mimicked human movement, but lacked substance. Bullets passed through them unless you hit the core, the bright, pulsing node of unstable energy that served as their heart. And they hunted by sound, by heat, by the very presence of consciousness. Contact, Miller whispered. He raised a fist, the universal signal for halt. We froze. Ahead, in the shadow of a collapsed skyscraper, something moved. It wasn't walking, it was gliding, its feet not touching the ground. It was tall, elongated, its limbs too many-jointed. An echo. Jinx, I murmured into the calms. Can you disrupt its cohesion? I can try, she whispered back. But if I miss, it'll know exactly where we are. And there are more of them. I'm seeing heat signatures blooming on the thermal. At least 6. Doc, get ready. Miller, on my mark. You take the left flank. Jinx, center. I'll take right. We hit them hard and fast. Aim for the cores. Don't waste ammo on the shadows. We waited. The echo drifted closer, its head tilting as if listening to the rhythm of our hearts. I could feel the pressure in my ears, the low hum of displaced reality. It was getting louder. Now, I shouted. We opened fire. The sound of our rifles was deafening in the unnatural silence of the sector. Blue tracers cut through the gloom, striking the echo. It shrieked, a sound like tearing metal, and dissolved into a cloud of black smoke. But, as it vanished, 2 more emerged from the shadows behind it. Then, 3 more from the sides. Flanking, Miller yelled. He dropped to one knee, firing control bursts. His shots were precise, each one finding the glowing core of an echo. One of the creatures lunged at him, its claws swiping through the air where his head had been a second before. Miller rolled, coming up firing, but the creature was fast. It backhanded him, sending him skidding across the debris. Miller, Doc roared. He abandoned his cover, rushing toward our point man. Doc, stay back. I ordered, but it was too late. Doc was already there, dragging Miller behind a pile of rubble. An echo descended on them, its maw opening to reveal a vortex of swirling darkness. I sprinted toward them, my rifle raised. I fired, missing the core by inches. The creature turned its attention to me, its eyes, voids of absolute nothingness, locking onto mine. I felt a coldness seep into my bones, a despair so profound it nearly made me drop my weapon. It was trying to break my will, to make me accept that nothing mattered, that existence was a joke. No, I thought. We matter. I gritted my teeth, forcing the fear down, channeling it into anger. I adjusted my aim, waiting for the creature to lunge. As it leaped, I sidestepped, firing point-blank into its chest. The core exploded in a burst of white light, and the creature shattered like glass. I rushed to Miller, and Miller was groaning, clutching his ribs. Doc was already applying a stim pack to his neck. He's got cracked ribs, Doc said, his hands moving with practice speed, and severe bruising. But he's alive. Good, I said, breathing hard. Jinx, status. Clear for now, Jinx called out. She was standing atop a ruined wall, scanning the area. But that noise, it attracted more. We need to move. Now, helping Miller to his feet, we regrouped. The brief skirmish had cost us time and energy. My heart was pounding, not just from exertion, but from the lingering effect of the echo's psychic attack. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog. You okay, Cap? Miller asked, wincing as he adjusted his gear. I'm fine, Elid. Let's go. We pressed on, the terrain growing more treacherous. The ground beneath our feet began to soften, turning into a viscous, tar-like substance. We had to leap from one solid patch to another, risking a fall into the abyss below. The sky darkened, the static cracks widening until they looked like jagged scars across the heavens. As we crossed a narrow bridge of twisted rebar, Jinx stopped. She was staring at her datapad, her face pale. Cap, she said, her voice trembling. Look at this. I moved her side. On the screen was a map of the sector, but it was changing in real time. The streets were rearranging themselves, forming a pattern, a spiral. It's a trap, Jinx said. The extraction point, it's not where Command said it was. It's moving. It's leading us somewhere else. Where? I asked. To the center, she said. To the eye of the storm. I looked at the map, then at the team. They were exhausted, battered, but still standing, still trusting me. If I told them the truth, that Command might have lied, or that the situation was far worse than we knew, they might break. But if I lied, and we walked into a death trap, I would have betrayed their trust forever. We stick to the mission, I said firmly. We go to the center. If the extraction point is there, we take it. If it's a trap, we spring it. Together. Miller nodded, though his eyes were wide with fear. Doc clapped a hand on my shoulder, a silent gesture of support. Jinx holstered her datapad, her jaw set. Together, she echoed. We continued into the deepening twilight, the spiral of the city closing around us like a noose. The air grew colder, the taste of copper stronger. And, somewhere in the distance, a bell began to toll. A single, mournful note that resonated in our chests, syncing with the beat of our hearts. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Time was running out, and reality was unraveling faster than we could stitch it back together. The bell tolled again, louder this time, vibrating through the soles of my boots. It wasn't a church bell. It was the sound of the city's structural integrity failing, a metallic groan amplified by the distorted acoustics of the collapsing zone. We moved deeper into the spiral, the buildings around us towering higher, leaning inward as if bowing to some unseen deity. My radio is picking up voices, Miller said, his hand pressing against his earpiece. Not static. Voices. Human voices. Interference, Jinx said, though she didn't sound convinced. She was tweaking the frequency on her comms unit, her brow furrowed. Could be residual echoes from before the collapse. Ghost signals. No, Miller insisted. They're calling my name. Miller, come home. Miller, don't listen, I ordered, grabbing his arm. It's a psychological tactic. The echoes feed on memory, on regret. They use it to lure you in. Keep your mind focused on the present. On the mission. Miller pulled away, his eyes glazed. But it sounds like my sister, Cap. She died in the first wave. She's calling me. Miller, look at me, I said, shaking him gently. Your sister is gone. That thing out there is not her. It's a predator wearing her voice. Do not let it take you. He blinked, the fog in his eyes clearing slightly. Right, Suri, Capitul. Just it's loud. We're all hearing things, Doc said quietly. He was walking with a slight limp, favoring his left leg. I hadn't noticed it before, but now I saw the blood seeping through his pant leg. I hear my wife. She's asking me why I left. I felt a pang of guilt. I had ordered Doc to stay behind in the safe zone, but he had insisted on coming. He said he couldn't let us go without a medic. Now, he was paying the price. Focus, Doc, I said. We're almost there. Just keep moving. The path narrowed, forcing us into a single file line. The walls of the buildings on either side were covered in graffiti, but the words were shifting, changing language every few seconds. English, Spanish, Mandarin, symbols I didn't recognize. It was as if the history of everyone who had ever lived here was being scrubbed and rewritten in real time. Suddenly, the ground beneath us lurched. We stumbled, catching ourselves on the crumbling walls. Earthquake, Jinx asked, steadying herself. No, I said, looking up. The sky was gone. In its place was a swirling vortex of colors, a kaleidoscope of impossible hues. Reality shift. Hold on to something. The world tilted. Gravity reversed. For a terrifying second, we were falling upward toward the vortex. I grabbed a protruding steel beam, wrapping my arms around it. Miller screamed as he slipped, his fingers scrabbling against the smooth concrete. Miller, Doc shouted. He reached out, grabbing Miller's wrist. But Doc's footing was poor, his injured leg slipping. He began to slide toward the edge. Let go, Miller cried. You'll fall. Shut up and hold on. Doc grunted, his muscles straining. I couldn't reach them. I was anchored but too far away. Jinx was beside me, her face pale. Jinx, your grapple. I yelled. She didn't hesitate. She fired her grappling hook, the cable snapping taut as it wrapped around Miller's belt. She engaged the winch, pulling him back toward the ledge. But the force jerked Doc, causing him to lose his grip on Miller. No. Doc screamed as he fell. But he didn't fall into the vortex. He fell onto a lower ledge, 10 feet down. He landed hard, rolling to absorb the impact. He lay still for a moment, then groaned, pushing himself up. I'm okay, he wheezed. Just winded. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Climb up, Doc. Use the rope. We helped him back up, the adrenaline coursing through our veins. The gravity stabilized, returning to normal, but the world around us had changed. We were no longer in the street. We were inside a massive, open atrium, the roof torn away to reveal the churning sky. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on it, a device pulsing with blue light. The stabilizer, Jinx whispered. It's here. But between us and the pedestal stood a figure. It wasn't an echo. It was a man, or what used to be a man. He wore the uniform of a high-ranking officer, but his face was obscured by a mask of shifting glass. "Welcome, Captain Thorne," the figure said. His voice was smooth, devoid of emotion. "I've been expecting you." "Who are you?" I demanded, raising my rifle. "I am the architect," he said, "or rather, what remains of him. I built this sector. I designed the stability fields, and I watched them fail." "You caused this?" Jinx asked, her finger hovering over the trigger of her explosive launcher. "No," the architect said. "I tried to stop it. But the government, they wanted to weaponize the reality rift. They pushed the experiment too far. Now the rift is consuming everything, and you are here to seal it." "How do you know that?" I asked. "Because I sent the coordinates," he said. "Command didn't send you." "I did. I hacked their network. I needed someone disposable. Someone brave enough to do what needs to be done." Anger flared in my chest. "We're not disposable. We're soldiers. You are casualties," the architect corrected. "And the stabilizer requires a sacrifice. It needs a biological anchor, a conscious mind to bind the reality fields together. One of you must stay. The rest can leave." Silence descended on the group. The weight of his words hung in the air, heavier than the gravity shifts. "That's a lie," Miller said, his voice shaking. "There's always another way." "Is there?" the architect asked. "Look around you. The world is ending. You can save millions by sacrificing one. Is that not the duty of a soldier?" I looked at my team. Miller, young and terrified. Jinx, brilliant and cynical. Doc, loyal and wounded. And me, the leader, the one responsible for their lives. "No one stays," I said. "We find another way." "Jinx, can you bypass the safety protocols? Can we activate it without an anchor?" Jinx hesitated. "Maybe, but the risk of backlash, it could kill us all. Or worse, it could expand the rift." "Do it," I said. "Captain," the architect said, his voice tinged with pity. "You are making a mistake." "Move," I ordered. We advanced toward the pedestal. The architect didn't stop us. He simply watched, his glass mask reflecting our determined faces. As we got closer, I noticed something strange. The pedestal wasn't just a machine. It was connected to a series of tubes leading into the floor. And inside those tubes were bodies. Dozens of them. Soldiers. Civilians. All connected to the machine, their minds drained, their bodies husks. "My God," Doc whispered. "He's been using people as batteries." The architect sighed. Necessary evils. Their minds provided the stability. But they burned out. Quickly. I need a stronger mind. A leader's mind. He raised his hand, and the shadows in the room coalesced, forming dozens of echoes. They surrounded us, blocking our escape. "Choose," the architect said. "One of you stays, or all of you die." I looked at my team. I saw the fear in their eyes, but also the resolve. They wouldn't volunteer. They wouldn't let one of us sacrifice ourselves. So I had to make the choice for them. "Jinx," I said softly, "get to the console. Bypass the protocols." "Miller, Doc, cover her." "God," Miller asked. "Do it," I shouted. I turned to face the architect. "I'll stay." The architect tilted his head. "You?" "Yes. My mind is strong. I can hold the field." "Let them go." The architect smiled, a cruel, thin expression. "Very well." He gestured, and the echoes parted, creating a path for Jinx, Miller, and Document. They hesitated, looking back at me. "Go," I yelled. "That's an order." Jinx's tears streamed down her face, but she ran to the console. Miller and Doc followed, firing at the echoes to keep them at bay. I stood my ground, facing the architect and his army of shadows. As Jinx worked, the machine began to hum a low, throbbing sound that vibrated in my teeth. The blue light intensified, blindingly bright. "Almost there." Jinx screamed over the noise. The architect stepped toward me. "Prepare yourself, Captain. It will hurt." I gripped my rifle, knowing it was useless against him, but needing the comfort of the weight in my hands. I thought of my family, of the life I was leaving behind, of the friends I was saving. And then the world went white. Pain. Pure, unadulterated pain. It wasn't physical. It was existential. It felt like every memory I had ever formed was being ripped from my brain, examined, and then stitched back together with wire. I screamed, but no sound came out. I was floating in a void, surrounded by fragments of my past. I saw my first day at boot camp. I saw my wedding day. I saw the face of the first soldier I lost under my command. They flashed before me, faster and faster, until they blurred into a stream of light. "Hold on," a voice said. It wasn't the architect. It was Jinx. I focused on her voice. It was a lifeline in the chaos. "Cap, I'm rerouting the power. I'm trying to pull you out." "No," I thought. "If you pull me out, the field collapses. Everyone dies. We're not leaving you." Miller's voice joined hers. "We're coming back. Stay back." I commanded. "Finish the mission." I could feel the architect's presence, a cold, calculating intelligence probing my mind. He was trying to break me, to shatter my will, so he could take control of the machine. But he underestimated one thing, the bond of a squad. I wasn't alone. I could feel them. Jinx, working frantically at the console. Miller and Doc, holding the line against the echoes. Their courage, their fear, their love, it flowed into me, strengthening my resolve. I wasn't just one mind. I was four. I pushed back against the architect. I visualized a wall, built from every happy memory, every moment of camaraderie, every shared joke. I fortified it with the pain of loss, the grief of war, and I slammed it into the architect's consciousness. He recoiled, surprised by the force of my resistance. "Impossible," he thought. "You are one man." "No," I thought. "I am a team." With a surge of effort, I seized control of the machine. I didn't just anchor the field, I redirected it. I poured my energy into the stabilizer, not to maintain the status quo, but to reverse the collapse. I pushed the reality back into place, stitching the cracks in the sky, righting the leaning buildings, restoring the flow of time. The pain intensified, becoming unbearable. I felt my body beginning to dissolve, my atoms scattering. But I held on. I held on for Miller, for Jinx, for Document, and then silence. I woke up to the sound of rain. Normal rain, falling down. I was lying on the ground, the mud cool against my cheek. I opened my eyes, expecting to see the violet sky of Sector 4. Instead, I saw gray clouds. Real clouds. Gop. I turned my head. Miller was kneeling beside me, his face streaked with dirt and tears. Jinx and Doc were there too, looking exhausted but alive. "We did it," Jinx whispered. "The rift is closed. Sector 4 is stable." I sat up, my body aching. I checked my hands. They were solid. Real. "What happened?" I asked, my voice raspy. "You saved us," Doc said, helping me to my feet. "You stabilized the field, and then you ejected yourself, just before the machine overloaded. We caught you." I looked around. The ruins were still there, but they were just ruins. No floating cars. No shifting woods. Just the aftermath of a war. "And the architect?" I asked. "Gone," Jinx said. When the field collapsed, his connection to the reality matrix was severed. He disintegrated. I nodded, feeling a strange emptiness. The victory felt hollow. We had survived, but at what cost? I could still feel the echoes of the pain, the phantom sensations of the void. "We need to move," I said. "Extraction is inbound." 10 minutes. We gathered our gear, moving with the slow, deliberate pace of survivors. As we walked toward the extraction zone, I looked back at the pedestal. It was dark now, a dead hunk of metal. But I knew what it had taken to silence it. On the transport helicopter, as we lifted off from the devastated landscape, I looked out the window. The city below was scarred, broken but whole. The sky was clear. Miller sat across from me, cleaning his rifle. Jinx was asleep, her head resting on Doc's shoulder. Doc caught my eye and gave me a small, tired smile. "You okay, Cap?" he asked. I touched the side of my head, where the headache still lingered. "I'm here," I said. "That's enough." But as I closed my eyes, I heard it. Faintly, beneath the roar of the engines. A single, mournful bell toll. Tick. I opened my eyes, looking at my reflection in the darkened window. For a split second, my face wasn't mine. It was the architect's. Glass mask. Shifting features. Then it was gone. I blinked, shaking my head. Just fatigue. Just stress. But deep down in the quiet corner of my mind, I wondered, had I really escaped? Or had I just become a new anchor? Was the reality outside the helicopter real? Or was it just another layer of the simulation, designed to keep me compliant? I looked at my team. They were laughing at something Jinx had muttered in her sleep. They were alive. They were free. If this was a prison, it was a beautiful one, and I would guard it with my life. The helicopter flew on, carrying us away from the nightmare, into the uncertain dawn. And I held on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, the war was truly over. But the bell tolled again, softly, inside my head. Tick, he smiled, a sad, knowing smile. Let it toll. We were still here, and as long as we were together, we could face whatever reality threw at us next.